He immediately started laughing, shaking uncontrollably. Impressive, my little master. This is truly hilarious. Didi suddenly remembered that he forgot to give the offerings to He Qing. He Qing waved his hands. No need, little master. I want to live a few more years. Di Chen's expression didn't change. He was not angry, and told He Qing to put away the paper offerings. Di Chen jumped onto his dad's shoulder, saying he had something to discuss. He said with a serious tone, my sister is being bullied by bad people from the Zhenya temple. I must avenge her. Daddy is the head of the Zhenya temple, so you're responsible. Di Chen nodded. Okay. Di Xi's eyes lit up. One more thing, can you make my other two tails grow out? Also, I want to transform back into a human. To these requests, Di Chen simply, no, he said, shaking his head. What happens when you bully a demon thinking she is a weakling? The chaos returns. She was no longer the princess bullied by others. The body was now inhabited by a demon, who was feared by everyone 1,000 years ago. Now she had this body. Her first order of business was to avenge the original owner. After making a scene at the mansion, Zi Feifei and her mother were unwilling to accept such humiliation. They sought out Shu Qianxi to kill Chu Jun during the trial. But Chu Jun was not only unharmed, she also dealt with those who tried to plot against her cleanly. Those who plotted against her were dealt with cleanly. The Pingyang Marquis Manor. Zi Feifei was bedridden. Wang Shi and several maids were beside her. They thought Chu Jun had used a substitute curse on Zi Feifei, and despite using all sorts of spells to protect Zi Feifei, none of them worked. Suddenly, a servant came running in, panicked. Madam, it's bad. Before he could finish, Chu Jun kicked the door open, sending the servant flying. A cold laugh came from Chu Jun. Looks like I came back too early. If I had waited a few more days, I might be been able to eat it. Wang Shi, seeing Chu Jun barging in, was furious. The curse you used on Feifei isn't a substitute, is it? What did you do? Chu Jun came back from the burial ground. During the chaos, she seized the opportunity to stuff a mud ball made of black earth from the burial ground into Zi Feifei's mouth. The earth was teeming with deathly energy. Chu Jun came from a place of death, so controlling the deathly energy was easy. A substitute curse. It was a lie from the beginning. But Chu Jun still smirked and said, of course it's a substitute curse, what else could it be? Wang Shi was infuriated. Guards? Seize Chu Jun, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Chu Jun chuckled. Actually, I didn't want to make things too ugly with the Marquis Manor. After all, this is also my home. Hearing Chu Jun say this, Wang Shi became arrogant again. Good that you know. Quickly, break the curse on Feifei. Chu Jun laughed scornfully. You, a mere concubine, dare to tell me what to do. Wang Shi's face instantly turned pale. I am the head wife of the Marquis Manor, also your stepmother. Chu Jun sneered. My birth mother was a royal princess. Zi Jun is a descendant of criminals. You're just a criminal's concubine. Who do you think you are? Wang Shi was furious, throwing a cup at Chu Jun. I will kill you someday. Chu Jun easily dodged the cup, slightly tilting her head. Chu Jun was too lazy to talk to her, just told her, bring me my mother's inheritance in 2 days and I'll let Zi Feifei live. Otherwise, prepare for death. Chu Jun turned to leave, also reminding Wang Shi, don't forget to tell Shu Qianxi, if you want to kill me, you should come yourself, those dogs are no match for me. Wang Shi's expression changed. She didn't think Chu Jun could figure out about the assassination attempt so easily. She wondered how Chu Jun knew about it. Chu Jun gave her a look. The world has no airtight walls. Wang Shi was about to erupt, but was helpless. After Chu Jun left, she threw a fit, smashing the furniture and cursing, that demon. I will make sure she dies. Get my nephew over here. A demonic overlord has been reborn. In this life, she was a weak, bullied good-for-nothing. Fortunately, her spiritual power was still there, but some were still not afraid of her, and treated her like a weakling. Chu Jun's first action, after rebirth, was to avenge the original owner. I've already made a mess at the Marquis Manor. She also used the death energy on the one who bullied her before, Zi Feifei. This time, Zi Feifei was completely paralyzed. Seeing Chu Jun was relentless, Wang Shi furiously tried to call Shu Qianxi to deal with Chu Jun again. After dealing with Wang Shi, Chu Jun returned to her room in a good mood and started meditating. She took out a peach wood cane and laid it on her leg, focusing and connecting her soul. After a moment, Chu-jun opened her eyes. She said, a small grey peach flower appeared in her hand. How did I create a flower? She asked. It's the peach flower spirit, said Mumu in her soul. Master, you are now controlling the right-hand peach flower. With a thought, the flower in Chu-jun's hand seemed to revive, sprouting a bud. Chu-jun curiously poked the bud and Mumu yelled, Master, you have it. Chu-jun was even more curious. Mumu, why do you have a mouth? Mumu replied, to eat. I need spirit herbs. But Chu-jun was poor, where would she find that? But she didn't want to disappoint Mumu. She immediately took out the spirit herb that Di Chen had given her. Let's fill the tummy for now. The herb quickly disappeared on the bud and Mumu happily burped. She said she would serve Chu-jun in the future. Chu-jun didn't take it seriously. Thank you so much, my dear spirit. The general's manor. Shu Qianxi walked in with a dark expression. To deal with Chu-jun, he had tampered with the trials for the third prince. But he didn't kill Chu-jun. Instead, she got tangled up with the state preceptor Di Chen. Seeing Shu Qianxi, Shu Fei hurried to greet him. Shu Qianxi didn't look too happy, and before he could speak, a sudden wave of stench made him pinch his nose. What is that awful smell? The servant next to Shu Fei immediately complained. Second young master was plotted against. During the night, he accidentally fell into the latrine. Shu Qianxi immediately took 3 steps back, looking at Shu Fei in disbelief. At night, Shu Fei, are you an idiot? This time, Shu Fei was thinking him already like this. Shu Fei threw his book down angrily. You talk too much. He turned around to explain to Shu Qianxi. The most important thing. Shu Qianxi shook his head in disgust. Don't come near me. Just stand there and tell me. Shu Fei hastily told Shu Qianxi about what happened in the trial. It was all because of that little bastard called Shanshan, and that bastard, my Fuguei. Shu Qianxi had heard some rumors these past few days. The Hanqian Academy was frantically looking for a talent named Shanshan. He immediately changed his expression and scolded Shu Fei. Do you know how important it is to befriend a talent in the art of alchemy? Go and apologize to her and try to befriend her. Shu Fei was dumbfounded. What? You want me to befriend her? Shu Qianxi patted Shu Fei's shoulder. You can't offend an alchemic talent. But your brother will definitely help you deal with my Fuguei. Shu Qianxi was hoping to deal with both Chu-jun and her family. At this moment, a servant came to report, Young master, the madam of the Marquis Manor requests your presence at the mansion. Shu Tiance's face turned cold. He asked the servant to tell Wang Shi that he was busy with temple matters. Shu Qianxi was furious. The Zi family is useless, not even able to deal with Chu-jun. The chaos returns. She is no longer the powerless, bullied princess. A soul of a demoness, suppressed for 1,000 years, has inhabited the weak body. What would be the terrible consequences of treating her like a chicken? Chu-jun closed herself off in her room for 3 days, using the power of the peach tree to upgrade her body and restore her meridians. She opened her eyes, a clear light in them. Taking off her eye patch, she walked to the mirror. With a thought, a black rune appeared on the blood demon eye. This form of blood demon is only effective against opponents of the lower levels. Looks like I need to train more. Suddenly she realized that Mumu within her soul was moving. And the bud was also bigger. Mumu said she has something to give to Chu-jun, and told her to open her right hand. After a moment, a small peach blossom with a dewdrop appeared in Chu-jun's palm. This was Mumu's life essence. A drop could form in 3 days. Chu-jun's training speed could be much faster. Chu-jun was overjoyed. She immediately found a small bottle to store it. She shook the bottle. Good baby, grow up quickly so you can take care of me in the future. At that moment, Mumu reminded Chu-jun someone had come. Chu-jun sneered. Looks like someone's here to give me money. Opening the door, what do we have here? It was Wang Shi's wet nurse, carrying a small box. She spoke in a strange voice. By orders of Madam, I have come to deliver the late princess belongings, and her family records. Chu-jun glanced at the box. Inside, there were several shabby items. Look at the nanny dressed in silk, like a noble. She's no less than a noblewoman herself. The old woman was even wearing an accessory that the late princess used to use. Chu-jun asked coldly, is this all of my inheritance? The nanny turned and threatened her. It's the princess' order for the princess to be satisfied. Don't push your luck or even this will be gone. She turned and left, scoffing, just a bastard with no mother. Thinks she is really a princess. The 2 servants also looked at Chu-jun with disdain. Chu-jun stood there, her eyes dark. They are so arrogant. Moo Moo said. Chu Jun remained calm. Some people just won't shed tears until they see the coffin, and I can't stand people like that. Chu Jun fixed her hair and walked out. In the Marquis Manor garden, the old nanny walked through a corridor with servants, talking about Chu Jun. No one noticed a vine quietly creeping towards them. The vine suddenly wrapped around the nanny's ankle, and then they heard a shriek. We fell into the icy cold pond. The two servants screamed from the shore, begging for help. Chu Jun watched the show from behind a rock. After the guards pulled the nanny out, Chu Jun calmly walked over. She casually picked up the bracelet from the nanny. She said sadly, "Oh, what happened to a perfectly healthy person? How could this happen? Oh my, isn't this my mother's bracelet? How did it end up with the nanny? See? People shouldn't be greedy. If you're not careful, you'll lose your life." The two servants shuddered, looking at Chu Jun, as if they were looking at a demon. One by one, the servants cried in front of Chu Jun, begging for mercy, promising never to take anything belonging to the late princess again. Chu Jun smiled. Good, only the strong can survive. In the main hall of the Marquis Manor, Wangxi was furious. Today she dared to kill her own nanny. Tomorrow she might even kill me, and Feifei is still unconscious. If this continues, she will die. Zijun slammed his cup on the ground in anger. Taking advantage of this chaos, I will deal with her. The head of the guard stepped forward. My lord, I don't think it's appropriate. Li Momo was drowning, and Chu Jun only showed up after she was pulled out of the water. Many people saw it. Wangxi retorted, Li Momo was just a commoner. Chu Jun is a cultivator. Isn't it easy for her to harm Li Momo? That little fox has a white treasure chest for a butt. With each shake of its tail, a bunch of spirit herbs, elixirs, and weapons would appear. Even a demonic overlord was curious about its big tail, and wanted to explore what was hidden within it. Chu Jun somehow managed to carry Li Momo away from the manor without being noticed. Even though Wangxi and Zijun wanted to deal with Chu Jun, they were unable to act due to the lack of good reason. The head of the guards also informed Zijun. Li Momo and the maid next to the madam, Xiao Sai, have both taken the late princess belongings. Zijun was also all ready. At this moment, the steward rushed in, holding a ledger, saying that the princess asked him to hand it over. And the princess also left a message, saying that the madam should carefully calculate the princess' inheritance, saying that such a large family actually needs to rely on his wife's inheritance for food and clothing. That's just embarrassing. Zijun's face turned ugly and Wangxi panicked. My lord, please listen to my explanation. Zijun slammed the table and yelled. You dare to question the princess? Worthless and shameless. Still on it. Servants, another one. Do you want to die? He raised his hand, wanting to hit her. Wangxi quickly begged for forgiveness, but her heart was filled with anger. Zijun sighed and told him to organize the princess' inheritance, and send it to Chu Jun. Wangxi, unwilling, could only agree. Chu Jun looked at the newly delivered ledger. Not bad. She yawned lazily and told the steward to leave. Afterwards, Chu Jun discussed with Moo Moo about their plans. The soul fragments of the current body's people were scattered everywhere. It was probably not possible to search for them by hand. Perhaps there were records in the royal family's secret archives. And then, there was Jinyao Temple. It seemed that the urgent task was to get into Jinyao Temple. Suddenly, they heard a rustling sound outside the window. It was the little fox, Didi. The moment Chu Jun opened the window, Didi jumped into her arms. Baby has made a dazzling appearance. Chu Jun did not forget to tease Didi. Did you finish powdering up your daddy? Didi giggled guiltily. Finished. Then he shook his tail, changing the topic. Sister, I brought you lots of good things. Guess what they are? Chu Jun was straightforward. Just show me. Didi blushed and pouted. Sister, you're a pervert. You can't look at boys' secrets. Chu Jun smirked. Where did you hide all the treasures? Didi jumped up and faced Chu Jun. Watch closely. I'll show you only once. He started to shake his large, furry tail. A pile of small objects fell onto the floor, including a small sword that looked like a toy. Chu Jun sighed. Amazing. Your butt is like a magic storage box. Didi puffed up his tail proudly. This is my secret. I'm not telling you. Chu Jun reached for the sword and sensed a strong demonic aura. It must be made from the scales of some demon. Chu Jun started to inquire about Didi's daddy's weakness. Didi stared at Moo Moo's cane, acting innocent. Sister, why are you asking? Chu Jun grinned. Of course, to thank your daddy for bringing so many gifts. Didi blushed. No need, my daddy likes it. Chu-jun looked at Didi with a soft look. Really? I always repay favors. Didi stared at Chu-jun expectantly. Sister, can you give me the gulen hua? I'll use these treasures to trade. If it's not enough, I'll go steal more. Chu-jun smiled mischievously. What is gulen hua? Didi looked confused for a moment. It's the flower I ate when I was in the forbidden area. Chu-jun giggled. So that was a gulen hua. No wonder I came back to life after eating it. Didi kept pleading with Chu-jun. I really need it. Can you lend it to me? I won't let you lose out. Chu-jun looked at Didi. With her current cultivation level, she couldn't refine the gulen hua anyway. Thinking of this, she generously gave the gulen hua to Didi. The little fox was overjoyed. Thank you, sister. Don't worry, my daddy is very rich. Everything I've stolen are just ordinary things. The real treasures are protected and I can't steal them. Chu-jun raised an eyebrow. So it seems that there are a lot of good things in the Jinya temple. Little fox actually hides the treasures in his butt. She watched him sit on a small stool. The spirit tool was stowed away, and then he casually wiggled his butt a few times. A pile of pills and weapons fell out. Didi used a pile of treasures to exchange for a gulen hua with Chu-jun. He also said that he would go to his daddy's territory and dig out more treasures to repay Chu-jun. Chu-jun laughed. Please spare your daddy's territory. You don't need to give me any treasures. Didi, determined not to let Chu-jun down, wiggled his butt onto the gulen hua, and the flower disappeared. After storing the flower, Didi bid farewell to Chu-jun, saying that he would send the flower back first and come back to find Chu-jun later. After Didi left, Mumu asked Chu-jun if giving the gulen hua to the little fox would help to find the person behind him. Chu-jun smiled gently. No, the little fox is too simple-minded. He'll cry if he gets tricked. Mumu thought that Didi, having obtained the gulen hua, had achieved his goal and might not return. Chu-jun didn't think she had lost out. It was just a pity that she didn't get to touch the tail enough. As night fell, Shi Wei Rendong was tasked with monitoring Chu-jun. The moment he turned around, he met Chu-jun's sinister gaze. Horror immediately gripped Rendong and he started to yell, ah. Chu-jun grabbed his neck and pressed him against the wall. Shut up, she asked Shi Wei calmly, what's your name? Shi Wei answered, trembling, Rendong. Chu-jun's demonic aura swirled and she said calmly, from now on, you only obey Chu-jun. Dong. His soul was captured and he nodded blankly. Yes, I am only to obey the princess. Chu-jun let go, satisfied. Good boy. She pulled down the black piece of cloth on her forehead, covering her right eye again. Rendong regained his senses. His neck now had Chu-jun's mark. Chu-jun told Rendong, don't show your neck in the future. Cover it. In the darkness, Chu-jun looked at her right hand. Now I am only directly using demonic powers. Although using soul manipulation can control an opponent, I can only control those with 100 years of cultivation. Mumu encouraged Chu-jun, Master will break through the 100-year barrier soon, and then you will be able to control thousands of ghosts easily. Chu-jun mused, that's true. At Jinya Temple, the little fox Didi knocked on the window, calling for He-ching to open the door. When He-ching opened the door, he didn't see Di-cheng in the room. Where's my daddy? He-ching picked up Didi and told him, the Lord has important matters to attend to, and will be in seclusion again. Didi's face fell. Daddy doesn't need to go into seclusion. Sister gave me the gulen hua. He-ching looked at him in disbelief. Really? Didi nodded, 100% true. He jumped onto the table. Baby will show you. With a pop, a flower emerged from his butt and He-ching was speechless. Didi wiggled his butt. The gulen hua also jiggled. He-ching, what are you doing? Quickly take it down. He-ching reluctantly took the gulen hua from Didi's butt. He then brought it to his nose to smell it. It doesn't smell strange. Didi winked at him. I told you, my sister would definitely help me. Since she's so generous, we should also be generous, right, He-ching? He-ching smiled slightly. I can't make the decision on this. However, I heard that the next trial will be in Yaoyu. Didi was immediately excited. Yaoyu, I know that place very well. There are lots of treasures there. He-ching quickly covered Didi's mouth. Be quiet, there are ears everywhere, little brat. Didi blinked his big eyes, determined to bring Chu-jun to this trial with him. The super cute little fox was clueless. He gave the treasures from his but to the female demon as a gift, and he also wanted to bring the female demon along for the trial. Inside the Jinya temple, many people had gathered. Chu-jun was absent-mindedly stroking Didi's fur, while Didi looked at Chu-jun expectantly. Sister, you promised that you'd listen to me in today's trial. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from behind them. Chu-jun, come here quickly. This is Wu Fugui. Chu-jun immediately became the center of attention. There were all kinds of comments about her. Some said she was a demon, others asked who she thought she was. Chu-jun curled her lips, ignored the crowd and walked towards Wu Fugui. In front of the crowd stood a pair of young people, like a moon surrounded by stars. It must be the fourth prince, Chu Mingyu, and the fifth princess, Chu Mingzu. Didi said angrily, Sister, they are fake. They are bad people. He also added, those princesses and princes, Didi doesn't like them at all. The fifth princess Chu Mingzu noticed Chu-jun's gaze and asked unhappily, What are you staring at, ugly woman? Chu-jun didn't look away, as she walked toward Chu Mingzu. Everyone around them stared at her warily. Seeing Chu-jun getting closer, Chu Mingyu warned, Don't come over here. What do you want? Chu-jun raised her hand and placed it on Chu Mingzu's head. Chu Mingzu screamed, I am the fifth princess, how dare you harm me? The fourth prince, Chu Mingyu, also prepared to fight. Chu-jun paused for a moment and then sighed, never mind. Then she turned around and left, leaving Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu bewildered. Wu Fugui asked, Fourth brother, does she want something from you? Chu Mingyu stared at Chu-jun's back. Ignoring her background, she's technically our cousin. Father values this trial, so we should try to do our best. Chu Mingzu pouted. What's the use of doing our best? Father's favorite is still the third prince. Chu Mingyu looked a little sad, but did not say anything. Wu Fugui called Chu-jun over and asked curiously, What were you trying to do with the fifth princess? Chu-jun smiled mysteriously. All the fourth prince, fifth princess, and Wu Fugui are here. Then Chu-jun said, I just think that the fifth princess' face looks nice. Everyone around them was speechless. The fifth princess rolled her eyes and mumbled, Idiot. Chu-jun made a heart with her fingers. Look at her face. It's chubby and soft like a meat bun. I want to pinch it. Everyone, including Wu Fugui and Didi, was speechless. What a weird brain. When everyone realized this, they looked at the princess. Baby fat, meat bun, soft. Everyone suddenly tagged her with these labels in their minds. Chu Mingzu was furious and grabbed her fourth brother's hand. Fourth brother. He's teasing me. As soon as she said that, her cheek was pinched by a hand. Chu Mingzu looked at her brother, shocked. What are you doing? Chu Mingyu withdrew his hand, not knowing why he did that. He quickly changed the topic. Chu-jun is too rude. We should stay away from her in the future. Wu Fugui started praising Chu-jun. You dared to tease the princess. You did what I didn't dare to do. You're the boss now. Wu Fugui then whispered, there might be a big move today. The Jinya temple is going to throw everyone into Yaoyu. You should follow me then. Chu-jun glanced at Wu Fugui. You're well informed. Wu Fugui grinned. That's the fun of being rich and powerful. Chu-jun stared in one direction. Your old flame is here. Wu Fugui turned his head. Isn't that Shu Qingyi? Suddenly, his eyes lit up. And that's isn't that my cousin Yun Su. Wu Fugui ran to the masked boy in the corner, ready to hug him. You have a cousin. The masked boy, Yun Su, dodged Wu Fugui's hug easily. A voice boomed, silence. No talking in Jinya temple. It was the head instructor of the trial. Everyone quieted down. Wu Fugui, with his thick skin, still tried to drag Yun Su over, saying he wanted to introduce him to his friend. Ignoring Yun Su's objections, he pulled Yun Su towards Chu-jun. Chu-jun was just watching the commotion when he dragged someone over to her. Chu-jun, let me introduce you. This is my cousin, Yun Su. Yuan and Yun Su. The names are like subtitles in a show. Chu-jun suddenly looked like a lovesick fool, shocked by Yun Su's appearance. Not only does this female demon have a soft spot for pretty boys, she even dares to admire them so openly. Before the trial began, Mai Fugui accidentally saw his cousin, Yun Su, in the crowd. He quickly pulled Yun Su over to introduce him to Chu-jun. After staring at Yun Su, who wore a mask, for a few seconds, Chu-jun suddenly gushed, Yun Su is so handsome. Mai Fugui looked at Chu-jun with disdain. Someone laughed from the spectator stands. Ha 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 ha, someone actually said that ugly monster is handsome. Who doesn't know that the Z family has a distant poor relative whose face is ruined and killed? Their parents. An eyesore, an ugly face, and a fool from a landlord family. The three of them together is a real mess. My furious anger rose. Chuckle, you guys, said. The parallels. The people just harumphed and said no more. My Fugue turned around, embraced Chujun and Yansu. Ignore them. During the trial, stick with me. Big brother will help you coast through. Just as my Fugue finished speaking, he noticed the little white fox on Yansu's shoulder. It was drooling. It smells so good. My Fugue immediately grabbed Yansu's head, looking confused. Little Chujun, what kind of fox is this? It's touching my cousin. The little fox quickly took another sniff, and rubbed itself against my Fugue. Chujun patted the fox gently. All right, stop messing around. Then, her gaze turned back to Yansu. She could sense Yansu's special aura. This fox was obviously not normal. My Fugue was still trying to wipe the fox's drool off his face. Chujun's gaze shifted again to Yansu's head. This time she was looking at Yansu's thick, dark hair. Chujun's eyes lit up. Such beautiful hair. It must feel so soft. At this moment, an announcement caught everyone's attention. The third prince had arrived. He had a warm smile on his face, exuding nobility. As he entered, he nodded to everyone with no airs. People were whispering. It was rumored that the third prince was approachable. Was it true? Behind the third prince was Shu Qianxi from the general's mansion. He was known as a genius. Many girls stared at him with adoration. Although Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu looked indifferent, they still stepped forward and bowed to the third prince. Greetings, third brother. Chu Mingzhuan smiled warmly at them. Fourth brother, fifth sister, work hard in today's trial. Third brother has high expectations for you. Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu obediently agreed. Chu Mingzhuan continued, the Zhenyao temple is crucial for our kingdom. This trial will be based on ability, regardless of status. Everyone should cherish this opportunity. With the third prince's encouragement, everyone was excited and waited confidently for the trial. Chu Mingyu, however, had a heavy heart. She secretly encouraged herself to try her best. My Fugue realized that the third prince was encouraging everyone on the surface, but was actually warning them not to help Chu Mingyu and her brother. She turned to Chujun. Do you agree, little Chujun? My Fugue suddenly noticed Chujun staring at Shu Qianxi. Damn it! Why does that Shu Qianxi look so good in white? No wonder those young ladies call him the white-robed young master. My Fugue expressed her jealousy and hatred. Chujun said faintly, handsome. Hair's just so-so. I've seen much better. Hearing this, my Fugue and Yansu both stared at Chujun. Who? Chujun rubbed the fox's head and said, I think the state preceptor is not bad. The little fox opened its big eyes and stared at Chujun. The tip of its tail twitched slightly. The crazy woman is finally targeting the state preceptor. In front of everyone, she was eyeing up the state preceptor's clothes. As the young master of Zhenyao Temple, the little fox's tail wagged. Chujun is dead. The third prince and Shu Qianxi arrived at the training ground. They immediately caught everyone's attention. Even my Fugue admitted that Shu Qianxi looked good in white. Chujun disagreed. She thought the state preceptor looked much better. Hearing Chujun praise her father, the little fox blinked its eyes and stared at her. My Fugue asked, You've seen the state preceptor? Chujun began to recall. A white-robed state preceptor. From afar he looked like a celestial being. Chujun hesitated. My Fugue quickly followed up. What about up close? The little fox also waited eagerly for Chujun's evaluation of its father. Chujun suddenly made a suggestive face. Unspeakable, said. My Fugue couldn't help but call Chujun a pervert. Yansu sighed helplessly. Then he gave Chujun a deep, meaningful look. Chujun laughed shamelessly. Who knew she could be so shameless? Her laughter also caught Chu Mingxuan's attention. She looked at Chujun and asked Shu Qianxi, Who is that? Shu Qianxi glanced at Chujun with disdain. Chujun of the Pingyang Marquis. Upon hearing this, Chu Mingzhuan looked at Chujun with interest. I forgot that my royal grandmother had a princess like her. Judging by her age, she should be my cousin. Shu Qianxi bowed his head slightly, hiding his disdain. She, a cousin of your highness, is not worthy. At this time, each participant received a jade amulet for emergencies. He Qing, as an assistant, started to announce the location and rules of the trial. Each participant needs to cut off the ear of a demon after killing it. The final ranking is determined by the number of demon ears collected. If they are in danger, they can crush the jade amulet to teleport out of the demon realm, but will be disqualified from the trial. Chu Jun looked at the jade amulet, unimpressed. It's just a fancy life-saving charm. After He Qing finished the rules, 3 other assistants each held a jade amulet and stepped forward. After combining them together, a light flashed. A few seconds later, a long passage appeared in the air. The demon realm is open, enter. The female demon not only wanted to undress the preceptor, she was even eyeing up dead bodies. Facing the bloody cliff, she suppressed herself. Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu were stunned the moment they entered. Although the place was eerie and terrifying, the spiritual energy was abundant. Chu Mingzu looked a bit scared. Fourth brother, this place is a little scary. Although Chu Mingyu was also worried, he still comforted Chu Mingzu. Don't be afraid. Fourth brother will protect you. In their nervousness, they suddenly heard footsteps. They turned around cautiously. It was Chu Jun and her companions. Mai Fugui was still complaining that Chu Jun almost ripped her pants when they came in. Yan Su just looked away, not wanting to see the chaos. Chu Mingzu asked in surprise, why is it the 3 of you? Weren't only volunteers supposed to come in first? Chu Mingyu was also curious. Chu Jun didn't explain much. She just walked forward, urging them, little buns, you and your brother better run. When the fighting starts, no one will care if you're a prince or princess. After saying that, Chu Jun, Mai Fugui and Yan Su headed towards the forest, avoiding the entrance. Chu Mingzu was furious, I'm not a little bun. Chu Mingyu quickly reacted, run. She's right. With that, he pulled Chu Mingzu into the forest. When Chu Mingyu turned his head back, the people who just entered the demon realm had already started a bloody massacre. Chu Mingzu was in disbelief. Have they gone mad? Why are they killing each other? Chu Mingyu looked serious. This trial only has 10 spots. They are trying to eliminate the competition from the start. Chu Mingju's face turned pale and she stuttered, even so, we are still royalty. Chu Mingyu said coldly, ordinary people can't kill royalty. It doesn't say demons can't. Hearing this, Chu Mingzu started trembling, unable to speak. In the distance, Mai Fugui was praising Chu Jun. You reacted so fast. If we didn't come in first, we'd be dead at the entrance now. At that moment, Chu Jun was looking at the group of people who were killing each other, her eyes sparkling. He, we are going to get rich. Mai Fugui looked over. Confused, what are we getting rich from? Yan Su also looked away. The next second, Chu Jun and Mai Fugui started to plunder the bodies of the people who were killed. Wow, this guy has a Qianquan pouch. This weapon is not bad either. And this, and this, and this. We are going to be rich, rich. Yan Su just stood aside speechlessly. It was better to be blind than to watch his shameless companions. In the Jinya temple, people were watching this scene through a magic mirror. Shu Qianxi cursed angrily, shameless. They even take from dead bodies. Those 3 are truly despicable. The third prince shook his head. They've truly lost the face of royalty. At this moment, Chu Jun, who was focused on looting, suddenly raised her head. Her left eye was cold and sharp, as if she had seen them through the magic mirror. Chu Mingjuan was stunned. The person just. How does it feel like she noticed us watching her? He Qing also looked serious. To invite. Mai Fugui noticed that Chu Jun was staring at the sky, and asked, what are you looking at? Chu Jun smiled a little wickedly. It's like some smelly fish are staring at us. I feel a bit uncomfortable. Mai Fugui looked left and right, confused, where are the smelly fish? Suddenly, a beastly roar came from afar. Demons are coming. Chu Jun looked at Mai Fugui and gave her a signal, demons are coming. Let's hide. The little fox not only hides treasures in its butt, it's also good at finding food in the demon realm. While all the participants were fighting each other, the female demon's actions were shocking. It was chaos. After Chu Jun and her friends avoided a wave of demon attacks, Mai Fugui took out a map, supposedly showing the location of the demon groups. Chu Jun asked curiously, how much did this map cost? She didn't believe it. Absorbing a layer of water, she was very curious. How could this map be real? My Fugue raised her fingers into an shape, gold coins. Chujun's jaw dropped. You're such a spendthrift. She was truly corrupt. Yansu, beside her, looked like he was watching an idiot. If you don't use this kind of fool, it's a waste. All the things that could be looted, they all had to have money. Everyone saw that many participants in the demon realm were pulling out maps, including my Fugue. Everyone was curious. Were the maps real? How did they spread out so much? He Ching sighed. The maps are real, but they are 5 years old. The demon realm's layout has changed. As for who sold it to them, you should ask the third prince, He Ching said, turning her gaze to Qian Quan, one of the third prince's assistants. Qian Quan looked innocent. I don't know. Maybe they were tricked. People are so deceitful nowadays. He Ching secretly understood. She just asked, does your master know about this? Qian Quan quickly begged He Ching to keep it a secret and offered to split the profits 2/8. He Ching patted his shoulder secretively. How could I take your hard-earned money? Keep it, keep it. After speaking, He Ching looked at Yan Su in the demon realm. Who is that? The feeling is so familiar. Chu Jun looked at the jade amulet in her hand. This thing probably isn't a life-saving charm, but a tracking device. She turned to Mai Fugue and Yan Su. Give me your jade amulets. Mai Fugue was confused. Why? Chu Jun said nothing and just stretched out her hand. Quickly, give it to me. And just like that, the other 2 jade amulets were in Chu Jun's hand. The next second, she dug a small hole in the ground and buried the jade amulets. Mai Fugue asked, confused, what are you doing? Chu Jun buried the jade amulets and said, this thing might reveal our location. It's better not to have it. After burying the amulets, Chu Jun dusted her hands and stood up. Done? Let's see how they can monitor us now. Finishing everything, Chu Jun headed deeper into the forest. Let's go gather spiritual herbs. Let those people keep killing each other for a while. A moment later, Mai Fugue threw down the map angrily. Damn it. This map is a fake. When I get out, I will definitely find that map seller and beat them. Chu Jun laughed mockingly and gave a look to the little fox. Remember to watch your back. The little fox jumped off Chu Jun's shoulder and stealthily went into the grass. Mai Fugue was worried. This is the demon realm. Why let him run around? Chu Jun didn't care. Here's my tracker. His nose is amazing. Just follow him, it's fine. Mai Fugue reluctantly agreed, while Yan Su's brows furrowed slightly. Soon, the 3 of them stood on a mountaintop. Looking down, they saw dense patches of various spirit herbs and small flowers. The little fox happily dashed around in the herbs. Mai Fugue's eyes widened. Is this the demon realm? These are like spirit treasures. Chu Jun, we're rich. Chu Jun excitedly started to dance. We're rich, we're rich. We've hit the jackpot. Yan Su watched with a dark expression. The next second, Chu Jun appeared in front of Yan Su with a grin. Cousin, let's get rich together. Yan Su stared at Chu Jun for a moment. With a deep tone, he suddenly asked, how much do you want? Chu Jun put her hands together by her face and said, kids make choices. Adults want it all. The little fox not only helped them with harvest, but also helped Chu Jun plunder their own protection. When everyone was desperately trying to survive, the 3 devils are working hard at looting the spiritual herb. In a certain corner of the demon realm, Chu Jun and the other 2 were enthusiastically digging up spirit herbs. Yan Su was no exception. The little fox hid behind Chu Jun, peeking at Yan Su. After a moment, the fox couldn't resist and jumped next to Yan Su, staring at him. He didn't know why, but he felt this brother smelled so good. The alluring scent made the little fox jump and bite Yan Su's slender finger. But Yan Su gently moved his finger and poked the fox's mouth with precision. With the little fox's pitiful eyes, he looked at Yan Su. Don't be hasty. Yan Su's cold voice sounded. Has no one taught you not to bite people? In an instant, the fox's fur stood on end and his body froze. He felt like his soul had been struck. Chu Jun spoke up. Is this little guy biting people again? Yan Su picked up the fox and gently rubbed its ears. He's probably just being naughty. Chu Jun smiled slyly. Even your cousin is not liked by the fox, but he is so docile in your arms. Yan Su said softly, maybe he likes me. He then asked Chu Jun, is this why you threw away your life-saving jade? Chu Jun chuckled, turns out you noticed. Yansu handed the fox to Chujun and asked, "Aren't you afraid of being hated by Jinyao Temple?" Chujun stroked the fox. "If I don't tell, and you don't tell, who will know? Besides, we are all thieves, no one is nobler than the other." Yansu was stunned. How did she know that the spirit herbs were stolen? Chujun leaned closer. "Are you gonna tell?" Yansu was caught off guard by her questions, and took a few steps back. Looking at Chujun's smiling face, he said, "You're bold." Chujun patted Yansu's shoulder. Wealth comes from danger." Actually, since entering the demon realm, Chujun felt like she'd been here before. But there was no red moon or spirit herbs back then. She tried to recall what happened, but her memories were blank. Thinking, she urged my Fugue to gather more herbs. She then asked the little fox, "Didi, is there anything special about Yansu?" The fox stared at Yansu with greedy eyes and said, "He smells so good, I can't help but want him." Chujun was puzzled. "That's it," the fox said dreamily, "it feels so comfortable when he holds me. Like Daddy's hug. He must be a good person, I like him." Chujun chuckled, "There must be something wrong with him." The fox was dissatisfied. "Sister doesn't trust my judgment." Chujun nodded, "If you think a big demon like me is good, then my cousin is probably just like me." The fox tilted his head, confused. "Is brother a bad person?" Chujun looked at the fox with a sinister smile. "Not just bad, has a big demon too." The fox's heart trembled, finally understanding. Inside Jinyao Temple's training hall, people were being teleported out after their trials. Everyone watched the demon realm through the magic mirror. General Zhuanzhong asked, "What exactly are Chujun and the others doing?" Xu Qianxi scoffed, "They are probably dead. They were so clever, they even threw away their life-saving jades." Zhuanzhong glanced at him. "Young Master Xu seems to be very concerned about Princess Chujun." Xu Qianxi denied 3 times, "I'm not. I didn't. Why would I care about her?" He Qing was serious. He had a hunch about what Chujun and the others were doing, but he wondered if Yansu was with them. A playful voice interrupted, "Big brother, you seem unhappy. Did the new talents you fancy get eliminated?" He Qing forced a smile. "No, I'm very happy." The third prince also had his thoughts. Why weren't his 4th and 5th siblings more careful? And he didn't know if the people they encountered were reliable. Just how charming is the female demon? The princess she flirted with took her in as a little brother. A cute little fox helps her to loot her own protection. Even the little fox's dad helped her steal spirit herbs. The trial is a bloody mess. Only Chujun and the other 2 are happily harvesting wool. Those watching the screen from within Jinyao Temple were also skeptical. He Qing was worried whether Yansu was suitable for Chujun to steal wool with. Xu Qianxi is deceiving himself that Chujun is being controlled by Jinyao Temple. Chu Mingzhuan also pretended to care about his 4th and 5th siblings. Suddenly, he stood up from his seat. "What is that place? How are there so many herbs?" He Qing suddenly came to his senses. The next second, everyone saw 3 figures happily harvesting herbs on a mountainside. Half of it had been dug out. He Qing was stunned as he watched. Chujun and my Fugue were stealing herbs. Stealing herbs was one thing, but how is that man helping them too? What shocked him more was, this place, how did other people get there? Everyone was seeing the scene through the trial monitor. Just then, a childish voice sounded from behind the 3 people harvesting the herbs. "What are you doing?" It was Chu Mingzhu and a man named Zhu Li, a 100 refinement cultivator. Seeing the 2 intruders, Chujun said, "We wanted to steal some wool, but I guess we got caught." Zhu Li was shocked. "Good heavens, it's all spirit herbs. They've emptied the entire mountain." Chu Mingzhu was stunned. "How dare you? You're stealing Jinyao Temple's herbs." My Fugue didn't know what to do, but Chujun was confused. "Herbs? What herbs? Isn't it just an ordinary wildflower?" My Fugue quickly added, "Yeah, it's just a flower. It's such a waste. Jinyao Temple should manage the place better." Julie was speechless at their shamelessness. My Fugue, "You're also a half-baked cultivator," said righteously. "Aren't you embarrassed?" My Fugue rolled his eyes. "Tch, mind your own business." He then whispered to Chujun, "Julie is a 100 refinement cultivator. What should we do? We can't beat him." Chujun looked at Chu Mingzhu and Julie, pondering something. Chu Mingzhu was still shouting, "I advise you to give up. You can't beat my Jew brother." Chujun suddenly smiled. "Little cutie is right. How about this? Well, surrender and work for you. All the demon cores we find are yours. What do you say?" Chu Mingzhu's chubby cheeks flushed. Who are you calling little cutie? I'm a princess. Your skills are too weak. I don't want you. You should just crush your life-saving jade. Chu-jun shook her head sadly. Princess is so kind. But we lost our life-saving jades. We can't get out. Chu Mingzu couldn't believe it. What? You lost your life-saving items. You're hopeless. Chu-jun looked pitiful. So, princess, will you take us in? Mai Fugui and Yan Su were speechless. Chu Mingzu hesitated, then said, okay, but you have to listen to me. Chu-jun and Mai Fugui were overjoyed, promising to obey. Only Yan Su was indifferent. The little fox is not just a good tracker. It can also sense the danger ahead. It acts as if this demon-infested demon realm is its backyard. He led the three to a hillside covered with spirit herbs. As the trio worked hard to harvest, they were unexpectedly discovered by a powerful cultivator. In a moment of crisis, Chu-jun could only beg Chu Mingzu to take them in as her little brothers. As soon as Chu Mingzu agreed, Julie immediately became nervous. No, princess, you can't be with them. Chu Mingzu hesitated. Chu-jun had reminded her earlier about the danger at the entrance. Chu-jun glared at Julie. Does a royal princess decision need your approval? Are you trying to go against the royal family? Julie was speechless, but internally he began plotting. The little fox suddenly grabbed Chu-jun's clothes, whispering, Sister, something's not right. I smell something weird. Chu-jun hummed in agreement. She moved the hairpin from her head. She has been letting Moo eat all this time, and it has grown a lot too. Thinking of this, she inserted her hairpin into the ground. Roots and vines sprouted from below, spreading in all directions, sensing the surrounding area. After a moment, Chu-jun asked, Moo, did you find anything? Moo told Chu-jun, Julie has the aura of a shadow beast injury. This aura will attract many demons. Chu-jun's expression grew serious. She also had a plan. She told Mai Fugui to start practicing, but Mai Fugui didn't understand, practicing what? I can do anything if you tell me. The next second, Mai Fugui took out a pill furnace. Last time, the Kaya-storing pill he made nearly made people faint from the smell. Chu-jun asked Yan Su to keep harvesting the herbs. Yan Su asked, how much more do you want? Chu-jun answered without hesitation, all of it. As they spoke, Mai Fugui was already putting the herbs into the pill furnace. Yan Su continued to work hard harvesting the herbs. The perplexing scene confused Chu Mingzu. She asked, what are you doing? Chu-jun smiled slyly. I suddenly don't want to be with you anymore. Little cutie, do you want to join our group? Chu Mingzu was shocked, have you lost it? Julie scoffed, Princess, why waste time with them? Let's kill them if they don't surrender. Chu Mingzu shook her head, no, we can't kill people carelessly. Chu-jun laughed, little cutie is indeed a cutie, so kind, you can't bear to see yourself die. Chu Mingzu glared at Chu-jun, you old pervert, you flirted with me and now you're talking nonsense. Chu-jun said calmly to Julie, little cutie, if I were you, I would stay away from this man. He wants to kill you. Chu Mingzu and Julie's expressions changed. What nonsense. My Jew brother wouldn't hurt me. Chu-jun explained that Julie was injured by a shadow beast and reminded Chu Mingzu. Others can't kill the Chu royal family, but demons can. Although Julie didn't know how Chu-jun found out about his shadow beast injury, he denied it. The next second, Julie jumped at Chu-jun. He couldn't wait to kill the troublemaker. Chu Mingzu jumped in front of Julie to block him. Jew brother, you can't kill people. Julie, with murderous intent, pushed Chu Mingzu away and lunged forward. Just then, the ground shook violently. A terrifying roar grew louder. Chu Mingzu stood there, unable to believe her eyes. Julie was also shocked. According to his plan, he had enough time to escape before the demons arrived. Why did the demons arrive so quickly? It must be Chu-jun who ruined my plan, that damned jinx. Julie saw the demon horde coming. If he didn't run, he'd be trapped too. So, he made a decision. He took out a bead containing the demon lure, and smashed it on the ground. The demon's scent instantly spread. By the time everyone came to their senses, Julie was gone. Chu Mingzu was shocked, rooted to the spot. He couldn't believe Jogij really tried to harm him. A hand pulled him close. Chu Mingzu turned to see Chu-jun's disgusted look. So naive and sweet. Are you really a member of the Chu family? Good-looking but useless. A group of demons charged toward them, but they were unperturbed. One was calmly dealing with it. Another was happily gathering herbs. And one smiled at the oncoming demons. Chu Mingzu turned, seeing Chu Jun's confident look. They had no intention to run. Chu Mingzu was anxious. The demons are almost here. Run, Chu Jun said, like it wasn't their business. No point in running, we won't escape. Chu Mingzu felt like they were all crazy. This is a demon horde. How do they have so much confidence? Chu Mingzu wanted to flee, but he couldn't leave them. After all, Chu Jun had saved him twice. The demon's growls grew closer. My Fuguei started to panic. He couldn't remain calm. Chu Jun told him not to worry and keep training. With a thunderous roar, countless demons emerged from the forest. Chu Mingzu cried out and hid behind Chu Jun. Looking at the trembling Chu Mingzu, Chu Jun scoffed, "Are you really a Chu?" My Fuguei was no longer calm. He paled and looked at Chu Jun Xiao Jun Jun. Chu Jun glanced at his furnace, urging him to add the herbs. My Fuguei frantically threw herbs into the furnace. The next second, it filled with white smoke. A terrible stench filled the air. Chu Jun and Chu Mingzu pinched their noses. This isn't training, this is poison. The demons were about to reach them. The host urged Chu Mingzu to show his skills. Chu Mingzu, with a pale face, obeyed. He was so nervous he was lost. Chu Jun urged him to hurry. Chu Mingzu gathered courage and cast a spell. Earth, come forth. In an instant, countless spikes erupted from the ground, temporarily blocking the demons. Chu Mingzu breathed a sigh of relief. But a demon broke through and charged towards them. "I can't hold them back," yelled Chu Mingzu. The Jinya temple members noticed the situation. Zhuan Zhong was enraged. Zhu Li is so bold to lure demons to harm the princess. Xu Qianxi said, "This must be planned." Everyone looked at Chu Mingzhuan. Chu Mingzhuan gripped the railing. If Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyu had problems, he wouldn't be able to escape responsibility. He roared, "Investigate. Investigate this to the end." He then asked He Qing to stop the test, worried for the safety of the princess and the fourth prince. He Qing shook his head. Only the state preceptor can stop the demon trial. But heirs in seclusion, Chu Mingzhuan retorted. Are we just going to watch my sister die? Is no one responsible except the state preceptor? He Qing hesitated. The princess has a life-saving amulet. If necessary, she can break it. Chu Mingzhuan was left speechless. He Qing spoke, and a golden light appeared in the Jinya temple. It was a Mulan barrier. Everyone stared at the scroll in disbelief. Xu Tiance's eyes widened. Chu Jun is only at the beginning stages. How can she possibly withstand a Mulan barrier? Chu Mingzhuan stared, eyes full of disbelief. The demons, agitated by the scent, were even more ferocious. Chu Jun closed her eyes. She pulled a strand of hair from her head, put it in her mouth, and chanted, "Listen to my command. Borrow from this." Immediately, countless vines shot into the sky, to create a barrier, forming a dome around them. Everyone was once again shocked by this operation. A demon lure using a furnace. A chosen one with heavenly blessing. And now, she summoned a Mulan barrier. So many skills. The vine wall held off the demons. Not only that, the barrier sprouted countless vines, strangling the demons. In an instant, the demons cried out in pain. Chu Mingzu was stunned by what he saw. He stared at Chu Jun's back in disbelief. A thought came to mind. Everyone in the arena had the same thought. Could it be that Chu Jun awakened the power of wood? Zhuan Zhong looked at Chu Jun in the scroll with praise. I didn't think Princess Chu Jun had such ability. Xu Qianxi was secretly planning. So what if she awakened a bloodline? I will make sure she dies. At that moment, Chu Jun ordered Chu Mingzu to cast a lightning spell. Chu Mingzu said hesitantly, I don't know how to do that. Chu Jun and Yan Su sighed, you've been training all this time, and you still don't know how to do a basic spell. The next moment, a cold voice rang out. Thunder, come down. 3 bolts of lightning descended, striking the demons. Screams filled the air. Chu Mingzu gaped at the lightning. You're a wood user. How can you summon lightning? Yan Su just calmly asked Chu Jun if she needed help. Chu Jun thought for a moment. No need, you can go back to your herbs. In a blink of an eye, Yan Su was squatting on the ground, sorting herbs. The others watched this scene with a look of disbelief. One Chu Jun wasn't enough. What was up with Yan Su? A wood user, casting 3 bolts of lightning. He Qing was panicking. The 3 commanders noticed He Qing's abnormality and asked, what's wrong? He Qing was tearful. Where's the low profile? The princess just summoned lightning, then went back to her herbs. Chu Mingxuan's look went from surprise to odd. Why is he so obsessed with herbs? Isn't he my fugus useless cousin? Is he short of money? The guard said, his parents died early, he and my family are just distant relatives. He has no background. Chu Mingzhuan nodded. Then he asked Xuanzhong what he thought. Xuanzhong said, some people who practice virtue are favored by heaven. Perhaps this Yan Su is one of them. Chu Mingxuan's eyes flashed. A blessed one by heaven. The three commanders were excited. This Yan Su is good. If he can become a master of Zhenyao Temple, then the task is done. Hearing this, He Qing was sweating. His master was too strict. The other two were also excited. I was quite interested in Chu Jun. I wonder what her intentions are when my Fugue trains. Xuanzhong was also curious. My Fugus training is strange. Unexpected things always happen. Chu Mingzhuan also said, what was Chu Jun's intention to have him add herbs into the furnace? Can anyone understand? At that moment, they got an answer. The stench from the furnace was getting stronger. The four of them combined to cast a wind spell, scattering the scent. The furnace was spewing out dark purple toxic gas. The stench was so bad that even the demons couldn't withstand it. They fell to the ground. The newcomers were yelling and coughing from the stench. The colors of the world were covered in poison. Xuanzhong suddenly realized something was wrong. Isn't Chu Jun a wood user? How can she also cast wind spells? Chu Mingzhuan and Shu Qianzi were surprised. Shu Tianzi's face darkened. Chu Jun cannot stay. She must die in the demon trial. This was the worst demon trial ever. The targets were a bunch of useless novices. Yet, they were all getting knocked out by the smell. When my Fugue added the herbs, the potent poison came. Even the little fox was shaking from the stench. The four of them used wind spells to disperse the stench. The sky and earth changed from the stench. Many demons fell. Chu Mingzhu felt lingering fear. This stench can kill demons and humans. The Zhenyao Temple members were shocked. They realized that Chu Jun was a wood user. How could she also cast wind spells? Chu Mingzhuan made a bold guess. Could it be that Chu Jun is a dual element user? Silence fell. Xuanzhong and Shu Qianzi were silent. He Qing and Qian Qiu were silent. After a moment, the Zhenyao masters went crazy. The only dual element user in Zhongzhou is the state preceptor, said Ding Ziyuan. Qian Qiu said, if Chu Jun is really a dual element user, then this is huge. Chu Mingzhuan said, if she is truly a dual element user, I must report it to father. Then, he asked Xuanzhong if it was certain. This is a big matter. I cannot be certain, Xuanzhong said. Shu Qianzi quickly added, Your Highness, I believe we should be cautious. Dual element users are rare. What if it is false? Shu Qianzi was conflicted. He had a desire to kill Chu Jun, but also an excitement. Chu Mingzhuan calmed down. What Shu Qianzi said is right. It's a pity that the state preceptor is in seclusion, otherwise he would know the truth. Shu Qianzi said, Chu Jun's cultivation is only at the beginning level, maybe it's her equipment that allows her to use wind magic. Xuanzhong agreed that it was possible. Chu Mingzhuan relaxed a bit. If that's the case, then we should observe more. In the demon trial, Chu Mingzhu stared at the demons, still in disbelief. My Fugue proudly put his hands on his waist. My training is amazing. I killed so many demons. I am a genius. Chu Mingzhu was speechless. What exactly did you train? My Fugue said, it's a my family technique. No one else can do it. He gave Chu Mingzhu a smug look. Chu Jun interrupted. Let's collect the demon parts. Chu Mingzhu was awkward, unsure if he had any demon parts. Chu Jun calmly told him that if they were in the same team, they would harvest together. The four of them went among the demons. They found a cave at night, roasting fish and dividing up the demon parts. Chu Jun gave a Qiankuan bag to Chu Mingzhu. Chu Mingzhu asked, why do I have two? Yan Su gave Chu Jun roasted fish. Chu Jun told Chu Mingzhu one of the two bags contained herbs. Chu Mingzhu was speechless. Why do I need herbs? Chu Jun smiled slyly, you're a princess, you should take the lead. If you take the blame, well follow your orders. Chu Mingzhu didn't expect Chu Jun to be so shameless, her face flushed. You're clearly making me take the fall. Chu Jun pinched Chu Mingzhu's cheek. She grinned, I saved your life, taking the blame isn't a loss for you. But the little fox not only hides treasures in his butt, he also loves to flirt. The moment he sees Sweetie Brother, he can't help but want to please him. But Sweetie Brother and other men already imagine a grand love story with the demoness. In the bird cage, a blood moon shines full. Chu Jun's group lit a bonfire and began dividing their spoils. Lies, making Chu Mingzu take the blame as leader. Mai Fugue also chimed in to tease the princess. Chu Jun looked outside and analyzed. This place is said to be a demon realm, but it's more like a space distortion. As she spoke, a small shadow appeared at the cave entrance. It was the little fox, Didi. He must have caught a fish somewhere. Chu Jun quickly stepped forward, thinking he brought the fish for her. But Didi put the fish on the ground and ran behind her. Then, he jumped into Yun Su's arms. The fish was for Sweetie brother. Yun Su held the little fox in his arms, gently stroking him. Didi happily snuggled into Yun Su. Chu Jun looked thoughtfully at Yun Su. So you're hiding your strength. You can even summon lightning. Mai Fugue also got interested and looked at Yun Su. Yeah, I wanted to ask about that too. Little cousin, when did you get so powerful? Yun Su spoke calmly. Jun Zu is good too. Didi happily wagged his tail in Yun Su's arms. Sweetie brother smells so good, like daddy. Chu Jun couldn't get anything out of him. She yawned and walked towards Chu Mingzu. Then, she lay on Chu Mingzu's lap. I'm sleepy. I want to sleep. Chu Mingzu was stunned by Chu Jun's actions. Why are you lying on me? Chu Jun sleepily said, because you're pretty. Chu Mingzu was speechless. These three were not normal. One a pervert, one an airhead and one silent.